utopia. But if you think it's the kind of bad place that's reflected mostly in the media, well, it's not that bad either. I had a wonderful young man accompanying me home last night, and he said a couple of things to me that actually were a little bit disturbing about how, you know, the Jews control the media, and Jews are smarter than everybody else. And what I thought was, if we're so smart and we control the media, why does the media reflect so badly on the way in which Jews and Israel look around the world? Well, we're not so smart, but we're not smarter or dumber than anybody else. We're just like everybody else. And the truth is that the society that we have, it's probably not as bad as the way it's reflected in some of the Western media, although that's got some variance to it. But it's better than sometimes, worse than other times. It's a liberal democratic society trying to do the best it can under very arduous and complex circumstances without now trying to be defensive or cast blame on anybody inside, outside, or any place else. But it is, and this is the important thing, it is a fundamental expression of the way in which the majority of Jews around the world today, there's 7.5 million of us living in Israel today as opposed to any place else, choose to identify as Jews. That is to say, it's a product of our political cultural choice, much like a product of political choice is. Okay, so that's my, I'm not going to be able to do this on. So that's my second point. Now my third point is that there's no really good political theory that describes that case. There's no good political theory that describes that case, which means actually there's no good political theory that describes any of our cases, which is one of the reasons we're struggling along. Because if you take classical Republican theory is about essentially a state that has one common conception of the good that everybody adheres to. That's not a pluralistic state. So that's not going to work very well. If you take classical liberal theory of the sort that I described, it assumes that the public square is neutral, and I've already argued the public square is actually not neutral. So that's not going to work very well. And if you take what is the sort of critical social theory that criticizes these sorts of things, that's going to have its own set of problems because it brings another kind of dialectical rationality as a universal, and it expects a certain kind of universality. And where other than in Albania or in other places that were under Soviet rule, can we see some of the dangers of a communist or a Marxist or a critical social theory approach to how a society should be organized? Well, so I don't think any of those theories work very well. The theory that I prefer is a theory sometimes known as diversity liberalism, associated with the philosopher Isaiah Berlin in a whole host of very important books and essays. Diversity liberalism is essentially founded on the fundamental idea that we live in a world in which pluralism is a fact. And because pluralism is a fact, the problem of political theory is not actually how to live together in a common neutral state, but rather how to live together across difference. And so it seems to me that the fundamental challenge of citizenship education is a twofold challenge. And it's the challenge that I think that you've embraced in this seminar. The first is that to acknowledge that people actually do have very thick cultural identities. That thick cultural identity may be of a secular nature, it may be of a religious nature, it may be of a variety of natures, and that thick cultural identities are good things for democratic societies. A good, thick Muslim identity is a good thing for a democratic society. It's a good thing. As is a good, strong, healthy Jewish identity in all of its varieties, and so Christian identity, and so too the various versions of those entities that might not have any relationship with a religious perspective. I like Siebent's idea of a worldview. It resonates with me very much. But by the same token, the problem then is, how do we create a society across difference? And so the problem of citizenship